7 p.m. I am officially calling the August 15th, 2013 Board of Trustees regular meeting to order. Everyone rise and please take the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Trustee Peters?
Here.
Trustee Novick?
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Here.
Trustee Goldstein?
Here.
Trustee Calamay?
Here.
Trustee Byrd? Here. And Trustee Elders is absent today.
I would suggest that someone make a motion for a interim chairperson for tonight's meeting.
I would like to make a motion to find an interim chairman for tonight's meeting.
Well, you gotta say who that I'm suggesting you nominate someone.
Don't do that.
As long as I'm making a motion, prior to making a motion. Would anybody like to step forward? Kathy's willing to step forward. Anybody else willing to step forward? At this time, I'll make a motion for Kathy Peters to chair the meeting. All in favor?
I'll give you a second.
Okay, we need a second. Do we have a second? Second. Kelly is a second. Okay, let's take a roll on that. Trustee Byrd? Yes. Trustee Kelly?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Trustee Novick?
Yes.
And Trustee Peters?
Should I abstain?
We'll just, we'll
Present.
You can vote for yourself.
Okay, yes. Hey, this is short. Approval of minutes for the board meeting of June 20th, 2013. May I have a motion, please, to approve those board minutes?
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have some questions. Is that, the question of the minutes is questions that the minutes led me to think about. So I don't know if this is the time.
What we're going for right now is the veracity of the minutes themselves.
As far as I'm concerned.
Does anybody have, your questions, I'd be happy to entertain.
No?
No, as they
Yeah,
go.
as they
This
go.
is, this
Okay, I
has to
just,
do with
yeah, I just wasn't sure
Yeah.
how to do it.
the factuality.
Regarding minutes,
Right.
number 10, there was an error. The official permission was needed from the board library to close late on Friday, not to open.
Actually, to stay open
Stay
late.
open.
We need the word stay in there.
Okay. And
Thank
the
you,
next,
Mary.
the next motion, there was a late closing of the library.
What page, is it on the next page?
No, the next line, motion by me to approve the late
Oh,
closing.
oh.
of the library.
Approve the late, we should say approve the library to stay open late.
Why don't you just say that way closing?
Late
Change
closing.
open to
Okay.
closing.
We can do that. So we have a motion to amend the minutes to, under number 10, official permission was needed from the board, from the board library. How about from the library board, as long as we're changing things? Okay, to stay open late on Friday, July 26, 2013, and August 23, 2013 for special programming events. Motion by trustee Goldstein to approve the late closing of the library on February 26th. Okay, any other changes? none, can I please have a roll call for approval?
Yes, I will. Trustee Berg, accept. Trustee Kelman,
Accept.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
Accept.
trustee Novick,
Yes.
trustee Peters.
Yes. Moving on to the, I'm sorry, passes 6-0. Moving on to the executive session minutes of June 20th, 2013. May I have a motion to accept these minutes, please?
So moved.
And may I have a second?
Second.
They can fight it out.
So seconded by Cal, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Mr. Goldstein, yielded to Mr. Gill.
We need to roll on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Trustee Peters,
Yes.
trustee Novick,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez, trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Kelman,
Yes.
trustee Berg, yes.
Okay. Motion passes 6-0. Public comments, agenda items only. As you know, we have two sets of public comments. One is for things contained on this agenda, and the other are near the end of the meeting. Yes.
My name is Jenny Montgomery. I am a resident of Morton Grove and a library patron, and I am paying attention. I am very concerned about the reports I have been reading in the Champion for the past 3 weeks.
I'd like to stop you right there, only because that's a non-agenda item.
I
And you were,
looked at the agenda and I assumed it fell under 10B, and I spoke with Mr. Tennant and he said that was fine.
Well, I'm not the chairperson of the meeting, but I did tell you that, if you.
how's it under new trustee training?
It says trustee review
Right,
and
that's
legal
further.
role of trustees, Open Meetings Act.
Chairperson, if you want.
Yeah, since it's a public, yeah,
You can
since
hear
it's
the
a,
comments anyway, you can hear them out
exactly.
later.
Yeah, later would be fine, because otherwise we'd have to have everybody else that's here for the same matter to be heard now, when it's not on the agenda.
No,
So-
that's not true. Sorry, I think that's not, that can be had in an open meeting.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Of course it is an open meeting, and she'll be allowed to speak at public comments, non-agenda items, along with anybody else who's here to speak on that subject. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on, please. President's report. He's not here tonight. Treasurer's report. Actually, tonight we have two treasurer's reports because nobody is, we didn't have a meeting last time. So if our director could please pass out.
If you do not have the June financial statements, financial documents with you, I have extra copies. If you have them, they're the same ones that you received in June. Does everyone have them?
I don't.
You don't have them.
So I'll be taking any questions or concerns that you might have from both the June and the July statements.
Art and Paul, do you have yours from June?
Did anyone have any questions about the June statements? The only things that I wanted to point out was on the special reserve fund in June, there was a $2,238 debit taken for Empire Today as partial payment for the carpeting that we built, or that's been installed.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
If the carpet's partially been paid for and the fact that the elevator hasn't been addressed yet, why are we paying the bill?
The elevator, I spoke to Empire about this, and they have recommended I speak to the installer, who will be out next week with the rest of the services carpeting. So that's why that has not been done yet, because they recommended that I speak to the installer for the best way to treat the concerns that you
We have a
about
real
that.
big balance outstanding with them.
Yeah, no, I
That we can
realize
hold
that.
back if,
Okay.
Yeah. And
That's
and
all
I
I'm saying,
Yeah.
I know it's a very minor, nothing.
No, absolutely. And
no,
they
it
had-
looks terrible, I agree
Yeah,
with you.
And they
Brad.
had recommended, I talked to the rep that we've been working with, and he was saying that the installer would be the best one to recommend what we
Well, I can
do to
understand
address
that.
So that's why we're waiting for that. So they will be out next week.
I have some suggestions, but I'm not an installer, so.
I'm happy to hear them, and I can bring them up with them, and. they
But
can
you
tell me
are
if
an
they'll work
interior
or-
designer, and
They
we
won't.
are, we
Yeah, but I-
value
but-
your input.
But I have not practiced, so.
So are there any other things of note on the June, either on the checks or anything like that? If not, I'll move on to the July. Our director wasn't at the July meeting, so there may be some questions that I don't have the answer to yet about the July meeting, but since you're here, you can answer them. Okay. We did get another big infusion of cash this month from the state. So that makes our Illinois fund account look a whole lot more like it usually does. We received approximately $500,000 this month from the state. That's the main change in the cash statement for the month. The main change in the PMA investment accounts are that we had a $200,000 became mature and were rolled over.
I had a question.
Sure.
On the checks,
Yes.
check register, the fact that there's about 18, 15
Yes,
employees.
I will get to that. You know what happened?
Just directly down.
Yeah.
First of the month.
Right, the checks were posted to the wrong date, and it would have made it post in the wrong month, and it would have messed up the
That's all I
bookkeeping.
needed.
Yeah, so they were, the exact
I
same checks
assumed,
were
I just wanted to
resubmitted
make
with,
sure.
and you'll see them on next month's check register because they'll have the date of, they'll have
The
August
first
dates and
time.
not July dates. So that's what happened there.
I should just look at it.
Good catch. Yeah. Any other questions on this month's checks? If there are none, can I have a motion that both the, let's see, how would we say that? June and July.
Motion to accept the June and July treasury reports.
Yes, June and July treasurer's reports.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report for June and July.
Do I have a second?
Bird will second.
Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Bird, trustee Bird, yes. Trustee Calvin,
Yes.
trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
trustee Novick,
Yes.
and trustee Peters.
Yes.
Okay, 6-0.
Okay. Now, we'll move on to committee reports. I always, in with my treasurer's report is our committee report. We have a monthly meeting for that. There were no building and grounds and policy committee meetings this month. Staff report, Director Leffler.
I don't really have anything to add to my written report for July or June, which seems like a long time ago at this point. Did want to point out a couple of things, as you can see under building and grounds. carpet replacement for the youth services department. The entire youth services department is scheduled for next week, so we're all very excited about that. It will be a little chaotic, but I think the youth services staff and our patrons are looking forward to new carpeting after approximately 40 years. So we're very excited. It'll be a little, like I said, chaotic, but it'll be a good chaos. Also, there was graffiti on the building, which has been removed. So I did want to point that out. Apparently the library was not the only place that was tagged that evening that happened, but we got off pretty lightly compared to what I've heard happened with some other buildings throughout town. So those were just a couple of the kind of bigger things. I did conclude my financial accounting course, which I had been taking all summer, and I'm really glad I'm not an accountant. That's all I have to say. So I did get a B in my class, so I was pretty proud of myself.
Good for you.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
more than math.
I've
Award
forgotten what it
that.
was like to do homework again, so that was, yeah, but it was, I think it will be useful, and we did start switching over to our new accounting software. We had received training on that yesterday, 2 days ago, and we think that will go relatively smoothly. So we've been pretty happy with the software so far. So that's going to be an ongoing thing, and our goal is to start using new software exclusively by the first of the year. We'll be slowly getting up to speed with that.
Okay, and thank you to Claude for taking care of our tagging.
Yes, even the maintenance staff did a good job with that.
I had a question about committees in general. In reading through things, I noted that in July, it was responsibility to choose committee. And I know there was no meeting in July. Is this gonna be postponed, or is it gonna happen, or does anybody know?
It has to happen, but I think
I think there was some confusion in the bylaws, like when the committees were
According
supposed
to
to
the
be.
bylaws that I read, it
chosen.
said
Yeah.
very specifically July.
I thought
As I recall, President Albers had requested the board to advise him which committee. he
Right.
Wanted to be on
he
one
wanted to
committee.
be on. And then we didn't have, and then,
Well,
we
we
were
didn't-
here, but we didn't,
There was no
we didn't
quorum.
have enough people to have a meeting in July. So I don't know if he's received, I haven't, I don't know if he's received, from anybody, a request to be on a particular committee or
I
not.
spoke to him though, and I mentioned the fact that no one should be ahead of two committees. It should be
Right.
diversified, and everybody should be on at least one committee. And there should be a different head for each committee.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the one that appoints the committees.
That's what I understood the bylaws
Right.
to say.
So, you could nudge him.
I would say that certainly I would email him or call him and indicate which committees you are interested in. And I
just
do
want-
know that the bylaws is also something that I think that the board had, discussed looking at as well, which might spell out some of those concerns such as Trustee Goldstein has.
Because it was done incorrectly before.
So it could, is there a way to recommend it be put on next month's agenda?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to, the president is in charge of,
The
preparing the agenda.
I understand.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it should be on the September agenda.
And I know that you have talks with him throughout the month about what you want to see in the meeting and things, so maybe a reminder that
Yes,
that is
I
going to be done.
know that.
Okay. Is that, and concluded your report?
Yes, I have, unless anyone has
Oh,
any
Barb,
questions.
you have
about-
anything else?
Question on building and whatever. You had said you were considering getting a consultant to help plan the roofing needs.
Right, and I have not done anything else with that. I wanted to get through we did have some repairs done on the flat roof
Okay.
that should get us through, certainly at least through the winter, if not further on. I believe it was discussed at a previous board meeting about holding off on the roofing consulting until we made it through the carpeting
Okay.
and kind of figured out where we are. But we did have some patchwork done on the roof, so we addressed the immediate leaking problem for now. But yeah, that is something that the board will have to decide if they want to go that route. I do also, it is on my list of things to do, in terms of contacting the village also to see if there's someone there that might be able to help. So we wouldn't have to spend money on a consultant and that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's something that they have or could, assist us with or not.
I don't know.
So, but yeah, like the immediate problems with the roof have been addressed with the patching that we've done, and we can consider the bigger project in the future.
Okay, appropriate council.
No, I don't have a formal report tonight, but I will give you a presentation.
Okay. Unfinished business, spending policy.
I don't know if you have a copy of the spending policy that I had distributed in the June meeting. There have been a few additions to it, so I've got these to hand out to everyone. This is not anything different than the points that the board agreed on including. Do you have your?
Yeah.
So if you want to look this over, as I said, this does take into account all of the points from various other spending policies that the board had indicated they had wanted to see in our policy.
In reviewing this, the main foundation of this is the Park Ridge policy. And then there's little tweaks here and there from the suggestions that was made by the entire board about taking a sentence from here, a sentence from there. So that's where it all came from, so. First, may I have a motion, please, to adopt the Morton Grove Public Library spending policy?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Now we can discuss it.
The only comment I have is the first point. 3 is always a good number of quotations to get. There have been times in the past that 3, we haven't been able to get 3. So, like, people just have not responded when we've reached out to them to quote us on things. So I'm just wondering if we want to have that so clearly spelled out, if we want to say something, secure 3 if possible, but if not, some kind of other wordage that takes into account those times that, we've not been able to get 3 quotes, like we've maybe gotten 2.
As long as
or-
we state that an overture has been made to various
Okay.
people.
If, okay, and I'm
So
fine
we'll
with
add
that.
the word if possible to secure 3, or what?
I think that I'd like to know that at least 3 were contacted and names of, contact, just to have it on record that 3 were contacted. And we're talking about things for
Right.
between, $5,000 and $20,000. So it is a substantial amount of money. It is worth chasing after 3 people for.
Yeah, 3 were contacted, but suppose
Yeah, I mean,
only
we
2
have
had
had a couple of
responded.
instances,
So
just-
are
yeah.
we satisfied with 2 who have responded in a reasonable period of time?
In looking over the other policies, they're pretty much solid on 3. So it depends, it all depends what we want.
I'm fine with it as written, I just know that there have been, I can think of 2 or 3 instances off the top of my head where we have contacted at least 4 or 5 people and have gotten like two actual quotations for
Could
things.
I suggest we just add this, the library director shall attempt to secure 3 formal written quotations. Does that cover it or not?
I think it's pretty nebulous.
Well, I said, see, when Doc pointed out, there
Well-
are such specialized,
Well, some are even harder though. Some people say that they want it signed and
It says
notarized
shall
and that.
secure 3 formal applications, and we don't, we're in violation of the policy.
Right,
yeah,
So
that's,
right.
that's why then our hands are tied.
I mean, I would have to bring it forward anyway.
That's what I'm
Then
saying,
you just
but
have to
you're-
bring it to the board and then I
But
guess the
you're in
board would
violation of
say.
policy if you buy it without the 3 quotations, whereas if you wrote, unless circumstances dictate otherwise or something like that, but I think the board has to make a decision
I
She
think
could always
we could
come-
put in the line something to the effect of, this
Unless-
isn't worded out yet.
What did you say?
That if after a period of time, say 45 days,
Yeah, a reasonable period
well,
of time.
that three
Quotes.
bid quotes were not obtained, the board will decide on a specific situation, whether to override.
I think, yeah, and I think if people are
Well,
dragging their feet.
well, emergencies are
yeah,
one
That's
thing.
That's
different.
right.
But
That's an
that's
emergency.
spelled
That's different.
differently though.
But the director could always come to the
Board.
board.
Right, I mean,
Right,
if
you can always come to the
it's
board and
already
say,
over
"I've
that
tried,"
$5,000
and then we can
threshold,
say-
so I would have to get board approval anyway, so
Right.
yeah.
And so you would just come and say, you know what, I tried my best, I could only get two, and the board could always do whatever they wanted to do.
It does say that,
Because
such
it's board action
quotations,
anyways.
Yeah,
such quotations shall be submitted to the board. for
Yeah.
Right, because it's over the
Yeah.
$5,000.
Within 30 days, you'll.
okay, all right. So let's move on to number 2.
Okay, well,
When you ask for these quotes, do you ask for it within a certain period of time, like by a certain date?
Usually, I mean, because usually it's
Okay.
things that we need to address in a more
So
immediate
it's
manner.
there on the bid that you're asking? Okay.
Right, when we contact them, you know, we're saying something's happening, we need to have, you know, people come out and give us a quotation on what it would cost to repair something or fix something, yeah, or purchase something.
Okay, okay.
What happens over 20,000?
And
It all has to go
We
there.
have to pass.
All right, two. Any other points of discussion, are people still reading?
What's the difference between 5 and 1?
One's budgeted and one's unbudgeted. Even,
Basically, it's the same situation.
well, no, you can have budgeted items that will cost you over $20,000, things you know that are gonna come up that are over 20,000. But yeah, they both have to go to,
It's the same process.
Right, basically anything over $5,000 requires
Yeah.
board approval.
I'm just wondering why it isn't handled the same.
We can certainly combine those.
I
Yeah.
just,
yeah,
it almost sounds like it's a whole different process. I've never,
Number one, it doesn't distinguish.
you know
No,
why
it
that was
doesn't
put in there,
distinguish.
because in our last meeting,
Yeah.
that's one that somebody wanted, so that's how they got
Oh,
in there.
okay.
So I'll
But we can
combine-
strike it if it's,
No, I.
Combine
You could
1
just delete
and
it.
5, or
You
delete
can really
it?
just delete it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one doesn't differentiate between budgeted and
Un-
or
unbudgeted.
unbudgeted.
So we'll delete 5.
Yeah.
The only thing
If-
you could do is you could put in one that,
Including
But
both
you're-
budgeted and unbudgeted.
well, what I was gonna say is that, you know, you probably would wanna bring it to the attention of the board that this is not a budgeted expenditure at the time that you're presenting the proposal. You know, so you may wanna add, you could add that. If there was a concern, if this was put in there because there was a concern about being apprised of unbudgeted expenditures, it's not.
Be pretty regular, you can always.
Right. No, I mean that when the proposals are presented,
right.
if you need it to be highlighted that this is not a budgeted expenditure versus a budgeted expenditure.
Yeah, this came out of the
Quite frankly-
Hinsdale.
Quite frankly, I think that 5 can be deleted.
Okay, delete 5.
Do I have a motion to amend the motion to delete number 5?
Well, actually, I think if you just, in your discussion, you're gonna delete number 5, and then your motion is to approve is going to.
Then the amended motion will be to approve it minus number 5.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion? Then may I have a motion to adopt the Morton Grove spending policy as presented tonight with the deletion of number 5?
Motion to accept
And you know what, I think you should change
MGPL spending policy, excluding or delete, with deletion of number 5.
Can I interrupt you? I think there's one other thing that should be changed, and that's, in paragraph number 3, second to last, well, third to last line, only be made with the written approval of the administrative librarian. I would just suggest that if that is the director, I would change it to director.
yes.
Some libraries call their director
Yes.
administrative librarian, we call it director. So,
Yeah, that
yeah.
wasn't changed from,
Yeah.
okay, so it'll be our second one, director. Okay, so may I have a motion to approve Marlboro spending policy as presented with the following changes: delete number 5 and change number 3 to director from administrative librarian. And Dave, please, okay, Dave is first.
I'll second it.
Art seconds that motion.
Seconds the motion.
May I please have roll call?
Okay. Trustee Berg? Yes. Trustee Calhoun?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Novak?
Yes.
Trustee Peters?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Next, special programs events.
I put that on there, I know I came to the board previously to get permission to stay open late for our MGPL After Dark series. What was, in discussions with the department heads and had planned for further programming that may require staying open late, both for the MGPL After Dark, which was wildly successful, actually our first one. But also we've also done things for schools and that sort of thing. I was asking the board's permission to give me the authority to make those decisions to stay open late without requiring prior board approval, but certainly letting you know at the next meeting, that sort of thing. Mostly this is just for ease of planning, and timing. So that was why that was on there, just giving me the authority to say, yes, we can stay open till 9 on a Friday night, as long as the library is closed.
About how many of these do you expect to have a year?
Well, the first MGPL After Dark was very successful, so we've got another one coming up in August. I believe we have some planned for September and October already. And a lot of that has to do with the timing of Books and Beyond, because it's a 2-month process, and when we have to get that in the calendar. And then also schools ask us occasionally to do things, like we've done some available to books things, those kinds of things. So it's hard to say. Certainly I would think no more than, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 a year would be the absolute max, I would think. I mean, that would be, that's just a ballpark.
And how would it affect any overtime pay or any?
There would be no overtime or anything like that.
Okay, so it wouldn't affect
It
the
shouldn't affect,
budget?
it shouldn't affect
one
the
way or
budget. No, the only thing that we're asking for is just permission to basically have the building open. So if the board is comfortable with me approving those
I
without.
would limit the amount of time that you need. If it works, you want to continue.
Basically, I'm just asking the board's approvals for me to go ahead and make those decisions, certainly keeping you apprised of
Are
anything that
you
happens.
putting any limits on how many hours you're adding? You're not thinking of anything like overnight or anything
Oh, no,
like that?
no, like nothing, anything
Okay.
beyond, just past 9. I mean, if we have to decide to do overnight in the library, that would certainly require board approval.
Okay, okay, well then, I guess we should have made the motion first, but since I didn't know what it was going
Yeah,
to
I'm
be.
sorry.
All right, can I have a motion to allow our director to use her own discretion on choosing the dates that we stay open past our traditional closing hours?
I'll make that motion.
Art has made the motion, do we have a second?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Give Paul a chance to write down the motion since we got him.
Sorry.
I'm illegible. Okay, in favor of that would be Trustee Peters,
Yes.
Trustee Novak,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein,
Yes.
Trustee Calamack, Trustee Berg, yes. 6-0.
Okay.
As long as it's working.
Okay.
It's good for the library.
New business, approval of software for internet computer reservations and wireless printing.
This was actually in your June packets, and I apologize I did not make copies again for everyone. Basically, this was because the board had, before the spending policy was officially approved, the board had requested anything over $5,000 to come before you. And so this is just for our internet reservation software that is,
Oh, is that the one that, what's the name of it?
we're currently using PC Res. This is for a different software called My PC, but it does the same type of thing, the internet reservation software, wireless printing, all of those types of things that, so, and this is for, we can do it at one time at $6,414, or we can break it up over a couple of years if we wanted to do that. Right now, there is money in the budget to do this for this year. Basically, it was something we normally have for our patrons, and it's just because it was over that $5,000.
Is there more than one vendor for My PC?
No, not for this particular software.
Okay,
So
and
these
we're
are-
changing it because it interfaces
It's greater
better with-
functionality, it's gonna provide us wireless printing capabilities for our patrons, remote printing capabilities, more reporting functionality, and easier to use.
Good. And how much more expensive is it than, or not, than what we're currently using?
Let's see, I have my notes of this.
Just got a figure of $6,500 approximately.
Yeah, but I asked what we're currently.
It's hard to compare apples to apples because we don't currently offer wireless printing and those, so it's all included. I would have to, I don't have the latest PC reservation bill. So if the board would choose to wait, we can certainly look at this again next month if you want to compare those two. This does provide us greater functionality and more
Is this a
service.
contract with a company?
This would be a contract with a company that would be renewed.
During the contract.
Which is what we're doing
How
now.
many years is the contract essentially for? Did you say 3 or something?
It's for one.
For one?
Yeah, we
One
can,
or
we
less if you
can,
pay less.
right, or we can
Break
break
it
it.
up.
I mean, if we choose to, we can choose to do it longer, and then we can,
Or installment payments, what
right.
you're saying, right?
Mhm. So,
So it's $6,000 or $6,500 a year.
no,
Or is that
this is the first year.
Okay.
Because, there's, installation and training that goes along with that, the connecting license, those kinds of things. So this would not be the cost of every year. This is just for this
How
year.
fast is this technology changing?
We gotta
This
keep up with
particular
it.
technology, not,
It's frustrating.
This is not, this is, this stays fairly, I mean, we would use this for, at least the next few years, certainly.
That's a good point, Barb, because
Well-
we retrain and then the
I mean,
next year.
I've given up on my own life, so I might as well have it. It's hopeless.
Look at her.
I can't understand anything I look at.
Is there a ballpark figure for what the cost would be in year number 2?
Let me see if I can separate out what that would
There's
be.
no cost of connection.
Right, and does that, and that include upgrades in the system, I would hope, if there are any?
Yeah, that would all be included,
Yeah.
so, This cost also includes, a, coin bill unit, which we had to get a new one, where you put the money in. So, which is $1,500. So that's part of what this 6,400 would be. So, going forward, we're probably looking at just, and this is very ballpark based on, just subtracting things that I know are one-time costs. Probably about $4,000, so, for annual costs. And again, that's not exact, I can certainly ask them for 2 and 3 year costs if we want to do that.
6,500 initial, then following years.
Probably about 4 based, just eyeballing this, I don't have those exact numbers.
Because this is only available through one vendor, what if they go out of business?
This particular company has been around for a long time.
Okay.
So I don't believe that that's going to happen.
Would-
Certainly anything can happen, but I would
Oh,
be
yeah.
very, very surprised if that did happen. So,
But that's what I'm seeing in other areas, that there are very specific programs that with one vendor only, and If the vendor doesn't have a
This-
history.
Right, this would be with a particular company who
I've
would
read
have
about
access
40
to.
years and started all over.
They would have access to other types of programs if we needed them. So, this is a particular
It's not that
software that we're,
significant.
So
that
are
we're
we going
looking at.
to get contractual agreement for us to get the upgrades on a yearly basis?
yes, that would
maybe?
be, yeah, that would be in the contractual agreement. And this particular company that we would be getting this through, it, again, has been serving the library community in Northern Illinois for a long time. They have an outstanding reputation, both in terms of customer service, you know, providing us with what we need, working with libraries, technical support, all of those things. So I feel pretty confident in terms of that. They will, I do not have the contract, I have the quotation.
When is this, answer, when does our current contract expire?
We actually have, I believe, through the end of the year. So, but given the timing of these things, because there is a wait list for this particular company to come out and do the installation, make the switch over and everything, we would need to get on their calendar. And I believe that right now they're working like 60 to 90 days out. So,
Let's do it.
So, yeah, it's up to you guys if you wanna wait and see what we're paying now versus what this is, or if you wanna go ahead and do it tonight. So let's just get a motion and see what happens.
This is something that our staff will be using, plus
Right.
residents.
I think there's a fair amount of confidence in this company that we are dealing with, and we need it for staff use of it, so in my opinion, we should.
Okay,
Well,
so,
what is it replacing?
it's replacing something called PC Reservation, which again is an internet reservation system.
What do we pay for that?
I don't know off the top of my head. Oh, can we just, yeah, do this.
The current system has not been upgraded since 1998, so this is a superior system.
oh,
Yeah.
And
Oh.
also the
Wow.
credit
Let's
card,
use-
printing
Yeah,
credit
this,
card.
and it provides us a lot more, as
Capabilities.
Natalia has pointed out, the system that we're currently using has been around since about 98, and that's about the last time that it was upgraded. This provides us, as I mentioned, a lot more functionality, not only right now, but moving forward, the ability to accept credit card payments, debit card payments, those kinds of things, if we should ever decide to move in that direction as well. So it's a superior product than what we have.
Is this a program that allows people to sign up for the course, the computer courses and stuff like that online?
That's our, calendar
PC
registration, no,
reservation?
that's a different software.
So what exactly does this
This,
software do?
this assigns you a specific computer, allows you to print through the software, so you know how much you're gonna pay. This also will allow us to do wireless printing, so if you're in the library and you have a laptop and you need to print something, you can print using one of our computers. If you're at home and you wanna print something, it will allow you to print to a library printer and come in and pick that up. As well as I said, providing a lot of staff functionality in terms of the way that we can reserve the computers, the reporting functionality we can get in terms of how our computers are all being used and that sort of thing.
And the income from that shows up on, does that show up under the photocopy
And printing.
printing
Mhm.
line?
Mhm.
So we get about $3,500 a year right now from photocopy
And printing.
and
costs.
printing. And this will cost us $6,000.
Yeah, this is
Well,
the first year.
Right.
Users.
6,500
Right.
initial investment,
Right,
and you almost break even with the use of it on a yearly basis.
right.
So I think it's a go.
Okay, make
Unless
a
you're
motion.
not paying for the notebook, you do whatever we did pay
Right.
for.
Right.
And it's, like I said, it's certainly is increased functionality, greater functionality for staff and for patrons.
Okay.
Well,
Can,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the software for the internet computer reservation and wireless printing.
can I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Christopher, can you call the roll?
I shall. Me, Colburn, yes. Trustee Calhoun.
Yeah.
Trustee Goldstein.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Novick. Yes. Trustee Peters.
Yes.
Another 6-0.
Which side?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Almost the wrong side.
Okay, approval of software, oh, we just did that? Okay, B, new trustee training review, Frank Tennant.
Thank you. Dan asked me to, since we have a new trustee, and it's always good to have refreshers for everybody else, but have a little presentation for you regarding the roles of trustees on the board and another just review on the Open Meetings Act. So if you can pass, take one from each side, put together a little outline. And I'm sure that you all have these in your packets, but I did make copies. I made copies of the bylaws for you so that you don't have to fight for them.
Copies of the bylaws.
Copies of your bylaws. And then your,
Did you get one? Yeah, I got it yesterday.
and I also made you a copy of your ethics statement that you have on your website as well. So, what is the role of the trustee? Well, trustee is obviously an elected member of the library board of trustees. And your role as a library trustee is obviously to be active and a participant in your role as a library trustee. And you're charged, as a board, you're charged with fostering the provision of the library services in the village of Morton Grove. What are the powers of the library board? In your statute, you have various powers that are listed. A couple of them I pointed out. One of the first ones is the adopting bylaws for the guidance and governance of yourselves and your duties. You are in charge of the financial expenditures of the library. You have the control over whether or not you're going to buy or sell real estate and various other things. And you also are charged with the duty of appointing a director who is, pursuant to your statute, shall hire such other employees as are needed for the library. You also have duties spelled out in your bylaws. And those are on the page 1 of your bylaws, section 3. It lists the various duties of the trustees. So you're going to elect officers, you're going to fill vacancies, you're going to appoint a professional director. You're going to determine library policies, you're going to set financial policy, you're going to secure adequate funds, you're going to approve expenditures, you're going to designate a financial advisor, and you're going to do various other things. You can exercise such other powers and perform such other duties as are provided by law and appropriate for the operation of the library. So, the thing that you have to remember is that you are a member of a board. You act as a board. So that one of the things you always have to keep in mind is to separate yourself personally from your group. So as each of us, or as each of you are a library trustee, you only have authority through acting as a board. And
Through the
so-
director.
And through the director, right. So when you look at your powers and your duties, you have one employee that you are in charge of, and that employee is your director. You are to offer guidance to your director, you're to suggest policies to your director, and the director is to follow through on those. So if you have a concern about a policy, or if you have a concern about something that the board should be doing, it should be presented to the board, as a group, for discussion in your open meetings, and you would act that way on things. So for example, any one of you walking through the library would individually be, nothing more than another resident, another patron of the library. And you would have no authority to tell anyone at the library what they should or shouldn't be doing, or anything like that. So I think it's important for library trustees and trustees, directors in any board, village commissioners, village trustees, park board commissioners, anybody that's part of the board, it's the board that acts, it's the board that does things. And so I think you have to always be mindful of that. Obviously, your role, you have a role between each other as members of the board. And, you have, I would suggest, it's fair to say that you should always be willing to listen to each other, what the ideas each of you might have to present. Keep an open mind in any discussions. Be respectful of each other, and then the bottom line is respect the decision of the board once the board makes a decision. I think that just the last point that I would make on the role of the trustee, I was looking at your ethics statement from the American Library Association. I think that's a nice outline of the library trustees' role and duties in fostering our library and fostering for the benefit of the community. So now moving on to the Open Meetings Act. Essentially, all meetings are to be open, except as provided in the statute. Now, there's about 20 exceptions to the Open Meetings Act, but most of them don't apply to us. We usually go into, we call it executive session or closed session, if we're going to discuss personnel matters, if we're going to discuss closed session minutes, if we're going to discuss some things, particularly regarding if you were discussing real estate or something like that. You can discuss pending litigation or imminent litigation in closed sessions. But by and large, it's the public policy of the state of Illinois that all meetings are going to be open to the public. And what is a meeting? A meeting is a majority of a quorum to discuss public business. So you have a 7-member board. Your quorum is 4. The majority of the quorum is 3. So if 3 trustees were to get together to discuss the public business, that would be a meeting. And they can get together to discuss the public business by telephone, by email, by video chat, by text messaging, by any means or a combination of any means. And the act is pretty broad, and that's a meeting. So I think what you want to make sure that you do is that you govern yourselves so that the board maintains and remains in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Now you may say, well, what's the reason behind that? What's the rationale for that? Well, I think there's 2 rationales. One with respect to the public, and that is that the public has the right to know what the public's business is being discussed. And then number 2, I think between yourselves, I think that the Open Meetings Act is important because In that way, one trustee or two trustees or three trustees are not being excluded from the discussion. It ensures that all trustees are going to be included in the public business. So I think those are really the two rationales. And then, we covered email communication before, and we sort of set out what we thought the email procedure would be. And item number 1, don't use your private or personal email for public business. Because if you do, your personal email is going to be subject to freedom of information request, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants to read your private emails, and nobody wants anybody else reading. Secondly, use your official email for library business. You can just make a hard and fast rule with yourself. This account is only for library business. This account is for anything else. I think you're not going to have any trouble. And the other thing is okay, well, how do you communicate? And I think that we set this up before, is that if there's going to be a communication to the board as a whole, the proper procedure for that would be for the director to communicate to the board as a whole, and then for the board members to communicate back to the director. And that way, you can not be inadvertently having a meeting, if you will, okay? The communication goes, what I'm saying is if the communication goes to the director, I mean, it's not open, you're communicating via email.
We all have access to that email.
Right. You all have access to that email. And the director can then communicate to the board, so that each of you are just receiving the emails that way. I think that would be the best way to have your communications flow. So any questions?
I do have a question. When one trustee does interfere with the way the library is running the floor, what can we do about this? Can they be censored?
I don't know that there's a provision for that, but if there's a person, if there's a patron that is on the floor of the library, and that patron is disrupting, you would have to deal with the person in that manner.
Even though it's a trustee, it's still a patron. In that case,
You'd have to give me more facts to really, in this hypothetical, but I mean, the bottom line is that if someone is doing something that they don't have authority to do, and they're disrupting your, be it a place of business or be it a library, you have to govern yourself, on what you believe to be the best route of action.
Can we hear from Jamie Montgomery on this now? Because she wrote a letter regarding this instance.
Well, it's not my meeting.
Goes to the president's email.
It wasn't there.
This comes in through the contact us form on the website, and the trustees right now, that email goes to the board president, and then he forwards on. So this also came in, so I'll just pass this out to the trustees so they have that. And then those are the only communications that came in this month. And like I said, that was the only other communication.
Both of these communications essentially have the same point, which I would like to address before the communication gets read in the open comments by Ms. Montgomery. No, it's not. Communications is first and then public comments. This is communications.
You're not doing communication.
Yeah, I know, I'm talking about these communications. I'll be happy to read them in any comments.
I would rather, wouldn't you think it?
No, because I think that there's a piece of information that you are missing as well as the people that wrote this. And that is that they're assuming that this was unilateral. And there was absolutely nothing unilateral about it.
I thought it was all one way.
Oh, no. See, that's how come, you weren't in the loop, Art. But, exclude,
Did you exclude art from the communication?
the communications were done on a one-by-one basis, and Art was not communicated with by me.
Did you have a meeting of trustees?
No, one by one. It was all one-on-one.
Wait a
So you
second.
successively met with trustees and to circumvent the Open Meetings Act?
No, I successively talked to people about what was going on.
You didn't speak to
And
me.
they, no, I didn't. That is true. That is true.
You spoke to the other trustees?
Yes, they did.
That's against.
And they spoke to me.
That's against policy.
No, it's not.
Of course it is.
No, it's not.
That's just what Frank just went over.
No, there's no need for, if a trustee
You can't
has,
defend a position by speaking one-to-one to all the trustees other than me. And how do you speak to, you're not supposed to do that.
yeah, you can. Let me explain, let me go through exactly the timeline of what happened, and you'll be able to understand it better.
Well, I don't know, I've heard this twice.
No, I don't think
you
you
should do I
have.
think you should go over the communications first before you do anything.
Okay,
It's communications is the item on the agenda.
okay, we can do that.
I'd like to raise the point that it's my understanding, and I have evidently direct proof, that you, Kathy Peters, spoke to the newspaper about things that should have been discussed with the trustees. Instead of doing that, you made it public, and.
That's not what happened, and in
How
fact,
did
the reporters,
get a hold of it?
I'll tell you how it did. Well,
Yes.
would you like to say how you got a hold of it?
That's not communications, Kathy.
Okay, well then neither was his
Can we do the
question.
communications?
Sure. Okay, well, I was going to afford Mrs. Montgomery to read her own letter if she wanted to.
Well, then have it.
That's how we do it.
Okay, but before that, I wanted to make very clear that there was nothing unilateral about this. Absolutely nothing. That Dr. Calamag and Mrs. Gonzalez and Mr. Berg and Ms. Novick and myself were all in agreement about this.
Are you
And
saying
that,
that you saying that you and other board members had an agreement as to something?
no, what I'm saying is that we were in agreement about something being in. If you would let me give the timeline, I would be happy to do that, and it would clarify things for you
Well, on
quite a bit.
communications.
Communication.
Well, which way do you want it, Frank? Or is it my
Keep going off
meeting?
the agenda. It's your meeting, but you keep going off the agenda.
Well, I think we're allowed to do that, aren't we?
Not
I
really.
think it's communications, and we need to
Yeah.
have people speak, communicate,
Right. And,
and listen to hear what they have to say. and
Right.
Act upon that.
right, but I think it's important that they know, as we know, that there was nothing unilateral about this, because I think that's been people's biggest, feeling, that if it was unilateral, it would be tremendously inappropriate, and there's absolutely no doubt about that. Yeah.
Did you read the ethics statement of the public library trustees?
Sure.
Did you see what it said in here about, well, look at.
Now are you gonna talk to him about communications? Or are you just gonna jump on me?
Madam Chairperson, I'm waiting for you to do the communications. I mean, I'm not waiting, I'm sure everybody in the room is waiting for you to do the communications, and we'll keep going off point.
Well,
The point is communications. Are you gonna do the communications?
sure, I'll do the communications. From Karen Lanner, I would like to express my no, I don't know that there is no address or phone number with this, so does anybody know if Karen Lanner is indeed a resident of Morton Grove?
Well, there's an email address right here.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell me if she's a resident of Morton Grove or a phone number. So actually, I'm not inclined to read this unless somebody knows her personal.
States that that's like she's a Morton Grove resident.
Well, it's up to you. Do you want to take her at her word? If this person even exists, we know how many people post that don't even exist. That's my only concern.
Why would they be concerned with Morton Grove Library if they were not?
Look at how many people are posting online with phone names right now. You know what, I'll leave that up to the council. I'll be
Is
happy to
Karen
read
Langer here
it.
this evening?
My concern is that there's no way to verify this is true. Is there a way we can verify this is truly a resident of Montville?
You know, other than replying to her and asking for her address, you probably don't have a way to verify that. It's your choice what you want to do with the communication, through your official website.
This was not a comment that was on, in the newspapers, this came to the
It says
library's
she is a
official
Morton Grove resident.
website.
The last line.
Check the phone.
Remember, people vote in this country
So,
without IDs.
Yeah, you're right about that, Paul. That's fine. I would like to express my disapproval of Ms. Peters' behavior regarding her unilateral decision on staffing for the movies at the library. In the future, Ms. Peters, please work with our wonderful staff and in cooperation with your fellow board members instead of taking things in your own hand. Your decision is not shared by this Morton Grove resident. Sincerely, Karen Lanner.
Why don't you just have these,
And-
why don't you just have these whatever it is?
Well, I'll have to move on to the next agenda item then, which I will. Okay. Public comments for non-agenda items. Ms. Montgomery.
I have my driver's license here. You need to know that I'm a Morton Grove resident.
Can we verify it? No.
Yes, you may. Just don't look at the date of birth.
I said I was just kidding.
My name is Jenny Montgomery, and I am a resident of Morton Grove and a library patron, and I am paying attention. I am very concerned about the reports I have been reading in the Champion for the past 3 weeks. I seriously question the trustees' understanding of a trustee's role in the library organization. I did not elect this board to decide what movies I can watch at this library, and if you had run with that as part of your platform, I would have never voted for you. I have 3 major concerns. A, it is not within the trustee's role to decide what movies or books are available in the library. I am not aware of a banned book list or that we in the United States actually ban books. If there is such a list, I would like to see it. As a patron, I would like to see R-rated movies in the library. In the past 13 years, 7 of the 13 Best Picture Award winners have been R-rated films. Do you suggest that Oscar-winning movies should not be shown in or available at the library? The American Library Association celebrates the access in public libraries of books which are banned by private institutions and in other countries during Banned Book Week. B, it is the role of the library administrator to make decisions about when and where library employees work in the library, not the trustees. I have attended many District 70 school board meetings, and I have never heard nor witnessed an instance in which a board member has walked into a teacher's classroom and told her what or what not to do. C, based on direct quotations in the August 15th Champion article, one can infer that meetings regarding the showing of R-rated movies have occurred for which public notice has not been given. Library board meetings are supposed to be open to the public, and the Open Meetings Act is not to be violated. I do not understand the trustees' point as stated in the August 15th Champion article. Is it the movies? Is it the 16-year-old? Is it the passing of leaflets, or is it who decides which media should be available to library patrons? It sounds as though some library trustees need a basic 7th grade review of the First Amendment. I have one question for this board. Is it the intention of this board to create such a controversial and unpleasant atmosphere around the library to justify its closure, relieving the taxpayers of the burden of support, and forcing patrons to use the Skokie or Niles libraries? Mr. Tennant, I thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. And the board, I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. A simple answer to your last question, absolutely not, never. I can speak for all 7 people on the board that we are here because we love the library and would never want to see the Morton Grove Library closed. Since this has been brought up, I would like to do a chronology of what happened. Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. O'Connell, did you have a comment to make?
I read the articles also, but I did not get out of it that that Kathy Peters was criticizing the library for the choice of movie. It was I felt that the main criticism was that the 16-year-old was viewing it and showing it. Is that correct or not?
Showing it is what
Pardon?
it was, showing it, that the 16-year-old was showing it, was the
Right.
one and only point in contention. Right, not that the library was showing R-rated movies, but that a 16-year-old was charged with showing.
That's what I got out of the article.
That was the only contention in what happened. There was nothing about censoring the movies.
Of course not.
That, I could say something else about that article, but I'll leave it alone.
You know what?
There was
It's your
not.
meeting.
It is not typical for a trustee to step in and do something of that nature at that moment. The trustee works with the board.
No, I didn't. It
Doesn't work
wasn't
with
unilateral.
patrons.
That's what you don't understand. If you would have bothered to ask me, you would
We
know
were
what
not
happened.
working
How
with
can we
patrons,
ask you,
that
we don't
wasn't
know
the
what you're gonna
employee.
do?
Well, you know what? I guess you don't know what happened then, right? Maybe you're not, maybe somebody didn't fill
You're
you
not
in either.
allowed to do that. You can't step in as a trustee.
I didn't, Art,
Excuse
please
me.
let us, okay, let Dave.
Why don't we let her explain in timeline so that we will all understand?
I thought the newspaper explained it.
Well,
You're gonna count, you're gonna ask?
Are we still in agenda item public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have another person? Yes. I guess we should finish that before we move on. Are there any other public comments? Thank you.
We're on
Mr.
communication.
No, we're on public
We
comments.
moved on to number.
Okay.
we'll go on.
Mr. Levin.
My name is Larry Lubin. I'm a resident of Morton Grove and incidentally a former member of the Board of Trustees of the Public Library of Morton Grove. I have a question about the spending on the furnace. This was apparently at least possibly inappropriate allocation of funds under improper circumstances based on the fact that the expense was in excess of $20,000 and was not put out for bid. I do have a couple of questions, which may kind of a series of questions. One, have the new furnaces been installed?
Yes.
Two, has the check been signed?
Mr. Elder signed it.
Has the check been cashed?
I do not know that.
So we don't know if it's officially paid for or not.
As far as we're concerned, it
I
was.
would have to see if the check is
Yeah,
clear.
what is the next step or what are the repercussions?
Perhaps Mr. Tennant can speak to some of those questions. I know that we've been talking about
Yeah, I think what, apparently, there's been a question raised, whether the procuring of the furnaces was done properly, or whether we avoided the bidding requirements of the library code. And what happened is that we had a furnace, for want of another word, go bad. We had a smoke-filled library. The fire department was called, the library had to shut down. And that furnace was replaced. And the other two furnaces were exactly the same. And Director Leffler was advised that you have a situation where you have no idea when those furnaces are going to go out, and you're going to have the same problem. And someone might say, well, you have time to replace furnaces because you don't need those until the winter time. But the fact of the matter is the blowers in the furnaces are what circulate the air throughout this building. So Director Leffler was faced with an issue that certainly affected the health and safety of the patrons of the library and the staff of the library. Director called numerous places when the first furnace went out, and could barely get anyone to put a bid in. She got a quote from one company, and then our usual furnace company also quoted. And our HVAC contractor, Air Comfort, pointed out that it would be better served to replace the existing furnaces that were smaller because they were actually oversized. The bottom line is that when you look at the bidding requirement statute for the libraries, it deals with planned expenditures, expenditures that the board is considering over a long period of time, that the board is raising money for and saving money for. The replacement on in an emergency or in a need to have something done immediately is not contemplated by the bidding statute. So it's my opinion that there was nothing improper done with respect to the replacing of the furnaces. This was presented to the board. There was a unanimous vote on that of the 6 trustees that were present. One trustee was not present and apparently does not agree with the decision of the board. But the bottom line is that I believe that things were done properly, and there is nothing, this word has been thrown around that there was an illegal purchase of furnaces, and I think that's a ill-advised word, but there was nothing illegal that was done by this library board. So I think that should answer everybody's questions, and I don't think there's any, since the point is moot, there's really no constructive reason to talk about it.
Mr. Kennicott, I have one other thing. I think we were $417 over 20,000, and there were 2 furnaces, were there not?
Well, two.
But the 2 were purchased. So technically, if you took them as separate,
You can't do that
You
by
can't?
statute, no, it's against the law.
what if you did it a month apart, technically? You replaced one at a time because of budgetary.
If you do it to circumvent the law, it's against the law. If you do it because it's an actual need, then it's not
Okay,
against
well
the
then
law.
we don't know if it was an issue.
Well,
Well, we do.
that argument is already moot, because
Yeah.
there is some
It's done.
sense of
It's-
urgency that could have jeopardized the health of people working here.
Right.
So, that's a moot question.
Yeah, and closing down the library for
Yes.
a day or 2, who knows?
That's correct.
And the person who did the work, I don't know, but the bid on the original was much lower than anybody else. And they stayed with that and gave us even a better deal on the other 2 furnaces, as I know. can you fight that?
I have a follow-up question on that. Doesn't the Libraries Code of Ethics, as well as the American Library Association Code of Ethics, call for the trustees to essentially echo the words of what the board has voted on, and to not dispute in public what the board has voted on, what the board has authorized?
It's true.
It's true.
And they certainly should not have called the newspaper and told them about the situation. When they didn't understand
I
the
didn't
full
call the
situation.
newspaper.
You instructed the newspaper. That's where they got the information.
I know when I was asked a question by a reporter, I answered it. Because when we ran on openness and honesty.
Why would you be asked that question if you didn't listen?
I wasn't even at the meeting. How would I have even known about it?
That's-
I didn't even know about it
But
until I
that's
was
the
asked the
source that the
question.
newspaper said.
How
You
could
got
I
the
have been the
information.
source if I wasn't even at the meeting?
I'm just saying it was published. Your name was published with it.
I wasn't asked about it, and I didn't even look at the tape until after I was asked about it. I said I didn't know, I wasn't at the meeting. Then I looked at the tape. I was asked my opinion. I answered the question.
You didn't give the newspaper the information?
No, how could I? I wasn't there, Art.
That's not my understanding.
I think we should move the, if there are-
Well, I wanted to go through the,
Shameen,
Is there still time for resident comments, or
why the smile?
everybody got it?
I tried to tell you.
Does someone else have?
Eric Potter, 740 Foster Street, to give you a timeline. May 14th, there was a finance meeting at 4:15. Mr. Kandick was in the building. He was informed by me via text. I can show you the text. He came into the meeting. There was an impropriety with the furnaces. I then came to the May 16th meeting. I've been coming to every meeting since. You've changed your meeting time from the third Thursday to the second Thursday of the month. I will make every effort to make these meetings on time. There was talk before about a forensic audit. If Director Leffler can't handle the finances in a correct manner, as deemed by the board, I'd recommend either you do a forensic audit or you hire somebody part-time to handle the books. She is a librarian by trade, by schooling, what have you. And if you don't feel comfortable, Director Leffler handling the finances, find somebody to do the things part-time, or maybe have the authority from Blanche taken to somebody else. Something like this needs to have oversight, needs to have checks and balances. You're dealing with public funds. And I will tell you right now, if nothing is done, I will contact the Attorney General, and there will be a full-blown investigation in reference to this purchase as well as other purchases. Thank you.
Any other comments? I guess my only comment is that I can assure our resident that the Open Meetings Act was not broken at any time. I can assure you that it was not even unilateral action. And I can assure you that the reason that I was the one who came in and did it was in response to the fact that nothing was being done about it, and we were hoping there wouldn't even be an issue. And that the president was out of the country, the secretary was in Wisconsin, and so I was the only member of the executive board that was available at the time to do it. It was discussed individually with other board members, and it started back almost, it started 3 weeks before anything was done publicly. On July 2nd, there was a email sent to our director by myself when I first became aware that we had a girl that was I shouldn't say a girl, an employee who was 16 years old, who was showing an R-rated movie. And that was always the issue. Not that we showed R-rated movies here. That's a library policy, and if the board doesn't like it, the board can take it up as a board issue, and that would have to be a board decision if that were going to be changed. There's no attempt to ban any books or any movies or there is no limitation on anything, any book that anybody can check out of this library. And if people want resources from this library that we don't happen to have and aren't easily available from surrounding library, we will go out and buy them for that specific patron. What happened was, on July 2nd, I wrote an email to the director saying, why are we allowing a 16-year-old employee to show R-rated movies? And at that same time, I also mentioned that most of the patrons that were viewing the movie a couple weeks earlier left because they were offended by the language. And, you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what was going on in the movie. Then I went on to say, in any case, I feel that it's wildly inappropriate to have an employee showing movies that she's not supposed to be seeing in the first place. Then on the 5th, I received an answer from the director saying, thank you for bringing this to my attention. She was unaware there was an issue with the film that was shown that previous week and about the people that left the film. And then she said she would also look into other matters that you mentioned in your email. And I would like to thank you for bringing it to my attention. So I wrote back that same day and said, thank you for your prompt, Director Leffler, thank you for your prompt response, but the main point of my concern has not been addressed. The library is scheduled to show 3 R-rated movies in July, August during Movies, Munchies, and More. Safety Not Guaranteed on July 23rd, Hyde Park on Hudson, July 30th, Anna Karenina, August 27th. In any event, it remains wildly inappropriate for a 16-year-old girl to be charged with showing a movie that she would not be allowed to attend under any other circumstances. I ask that you remedy the situation immediately. It's up to you how to change it, but it's imperative that it be changed. And then at that same time, when I began informing by email, I emailed the president on the same subject. I emailed other board members on the same subject so that they were aware of it. And I discussed the subject specifically with there were 5 other, counting me, there were 4 other board members that it was discussed with. By the time the movie was coming for the 23rd, we were hoping that it would be a non-issue. Director Leffler was out of the country at the time, and I was here to sign checks anyway. The night before that, the Monday night before, Dr. Kalamag and I discussed what to do in the hopefully non-existent case that the young girl was still being charged with showing the movie. And at that time, we decided that what would be done would be to go and talk to Kevin and ask him to have an adult show the movie. I also spoke with, that same evening, with Mr. Berg. And I had also spoken about this subject before that with Ms. Novick and with Erla, who was, both of them were out of town when this thing happened too. So, when I went in, the young lady was there. I asked her if she was going to be showing the movie, and she said yes. And I asked her to please go upstairs and wait in the administrative offices, that she had done absolutely nothing wrong, but that we were going to get an adult to show the movie. At that time, she informed me that her mother was going to be signing a paper saying that she would be allowed to show the movie. At which time I said, it really doesn't matter what your mother, who happens to be an employee of this library, says. And then I went back, nobody, it was before the movie started, nobody inside the movie had a clue what was happening. There was nothing loud happening. I went to the reference desk and asked to speak with, to be able to go back to speak with Mr. Justy. Instead, they asked me to wait there. Mr. Justy came out to me, at which point Mr. Justy and I had a conversation where he told me that the mother was signing a paper. And I said, it doesn't matter, we want an adult to show the movie. And at that time, Mr. Justy went and got an adult to show the movie. Went
By the
upstairs.
very fact that you said, we want, you're going against.
No, the
Trustees
people that we
shall.
talked to, no, trustees have, and in our job description specifically, it says that we can set policy, and this was a policy that needed to be done before
I
the
beg
arm.
to differ with you.
Well, you're the one,
can't
you're the
set
one who
policy.
didn't.
I don't think we should have this discussion right now. I think we should move on to executive session.
Okay. We can do that, but the fact of the matter is, there was nothing unilateral about it.
How did the newspaper get the name of the person?
You know what, they don't have the name of the person.
The name of the person appeared in the newspaper.
The employee's name?
Her name was-
No.
Excuse me, we should go into.
We should move on to the next
No,
agenda.
we're not gonna talk, as far as well, I did want to answer the question about how the press came to know about it, because it had nothing to do with me.
I'm sorry.
I said I would like to let you know how the press came to know about it, because it had absolutely nothing to do with me.
That was the understanding.
May I
where
interrupt
your name
you?
appeared with
Let
the-
us go to executive session.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody have
I don't see it.
Somebody have executive
I don't
session
see it.
sheet?
I do. I move them, am I allowed to make a motion?
You did make the motion.
Okay.
Somebody else could do it.
I move that we go to executive session.
Well, it says, I move the motion that the board go into executive session to consider information regarding appointment, employment, or dismissal of an employee or officer pursuant to section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act. We're not, wait a second though. How are
You
we?
need a second.
Wait. What part is covered by that?
What part of what? You
Of
have
being
an
able to-
you have an executive session thing regarding a personnel issue.
Oh, I didn't know that. You'd never told me that.
But that's what this has become. I mean, executive session is usually on the agenda in case we should have to go into it. My understanding from the rest of the trustees that they feel that this would be an appropriate time if we're going to be talking about specific personnel, particularly given the age and.
We're not giving the
situation.
name or
It's-
the
I mean,
age of,
it's up to
we're
the
not
board.
giving the name of the person.
If that's,
I don't think that it's appropriate that we give the name of the employee.
You're not going to do that. Okay? You have personnel matters that need to be discussed in executive session. So you've made a motion, we need a second.
Second motion.
You need a roll call vote?
Let me do a roll call. Trustee Berg, yes. Trustee Kelman.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstein.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Trustee Novick.
Yes.
Trustee Peters.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0, but we will be executive session at 8:35 p.m.
All right, so we're back in regular session at 9:20.
We're back in at 9:20. Mr. Mr. Berg, can you please call the roll?
Okay. Trustee Berg, present. Trustee Kelman.
Present.
Trustee Goldstein.
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Present.
Trustee Novick. And Trustee Peters.
Here. Okay.
To be different.
Does anybody have anything to say before we move to adjournment?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second that
Second? Okay, it is 9:20. Good night, everyone.